party starter. Everybody, let's go.
What is up, YouTube? So if you guys have been following me, we've been slowly and gradually trying to get our way to realize this pretty generic diagram. Okay, this is us here off down in the house in the yellow square. We have our management laptop here, and we are going to be managing this company VPC. So I've already went ahead and deployed two Ubuntu server instances up in AWS. We're going to turn one into just kind of a management machine that we can use to pull and push Docker images to our local Docker registry server. Okay, so that hopefully is setting the stage to what we're trying to accomplish during this video, and it's going to just be a rough cut with no edits. Okay, so on a previous video when I was going on a tangent about deploying the EC2s, and if you haven't watched that video, you can go back and take a look at it. We go over deploying virtual machines using AWS CLI tool as well as PowerShell, and then we just do a quick hello world using Terraform. So all of these little nuggets are hopefully they build on one another, and just kind of give you guys and gals more tools for your toolbox. Okay, so hopefully you're learning. I know I am, and that's really the only thing that matters here. All right, so what we're trying to achieve is we're trying to deploy our own local Docker registry. Okay, and like I've said in the previous video, there's several reasons why you'd want to do this: to integrate it into a CI/CD pipeline, to have more control over the images in which your devs are able to build solutions from. So again, just depends on what persona and what individual that what persona you're coming from would decide the benefits and why you would want to do this. Excuse me. So the Docker registry, obviously there's the public Docker hub where I can anyone can pull community published containers from. Vendors publish containers there, and just users in the community at large publish containers to the public Docker hub, and that's where we're actually going to pull the Docker registry container that Docker has built and has given us the ability to leverage. So that's the Docker registry in a nutshell, and we can see here in the registry overview, we are. This is how we're going to go ahead and start it up. We would then pull an image down to local Docker, and then we would tag that image, and then we're going to push that image to our local registry that's listening on port 5000. Okay, so what we are going to do is we're going to build Docker. We're going to install Docker rather on these Linux machines, and then we will pull down the registry container. So we can come over here to hub.docker.com/registry. I think there's some dots in there, but we're going to use Docker pull registry, and again, that's going to pull down the Docker registry container. And then, as we can see, the same instructions in the Docker documents. They're over here actually on the container page itself. All right. So, like I said, I already have deployed these EC2 instances. We can jump over, and I can show you that. Okay. So we've got two T2 micros just running in Amazon. Nothing crazy or any special networking that's taking place. So we're going to, hypothetically say that the local registry would be disconnected from the internet, or you could just imagine so. All right, so let's go ahead and refresh this. I don't know what's going on there. All right, we're going to grab our connection string, and then we will go down to VS Code, paste it, Control A, and we will change the directory to where my key is sitting. Okay, we will accept. Yes, and we are in our first AWS. So we can say command prompt, we're going to say terminal rename. We'll say Docker. We'll call this Docker Registry. Okay. So first things first, let's do a sudo app. We'll do sudo app get install Docker. Sudo app get install Docker. Sudo app. Sorry. Okay. Probably wants us to do an update and upgrade. Probably cut this out of the video. It doesn't take too long. Here's our update, upgrade. Wait for this to finish. In the meantime, I'm going to grab a drink of water. Go ahead and cut this out. Alright, and we are back from the update and upgrade. Now we want to do now we can install Docker. Docker is running. Okay. We can say which Docker, make sure. Put it in install to path. Okay. Let's say Docker not found. Sudo app install docker.io. Yes. Wait for that to finish and then we'll come back. Okay, Docker has finished installing. We should be able to say which Docker. Okay, Docker is good to go. Okay, so now let's go back to our documentation. We'll go back, okay, and we'll go back to our registry. So now we're on Docker Hub and we found the container that we're trying to pull into our environment. And Docker Hub has this nice little thing. You just come over and copy and paste the name. We'll go back. We'll paste that down. And now we're saying got permission. Okay. So we'll say please sudo. So Docker's going out to the hub and it's pulling down that image. So we should be able to say Docker image. Is it ls? Let's see, Docker image sudo. So Docker sudo Docker image ls might be a list. Okay. So that's not it. Say list. Let's tackle. No. Let's say maybe it's an image. It's a container. So here we go. Those are management configs. Manage containers. Nope. Let's see. Which one do we want here? Let's pull this up so you guys can see it better. Alright. So we've got create diff, events, images, list images. We'll say sudo docker images. Okay, they're showing nothing there. And images, stats, update. Alright. Let's see. Docker pull registry. So then we say docker run, restart always name registry. Am I missing something? My eyes. Oh. There we go. So it is an image. I don't know what I seen registry and I'm looking for. I was looking for like Docker or something. Okay, so we did pull down our image. It is right there. Okay, it's my bad. All right. So now what we can do is run the local registry in quick version. Okay. So we can say special super privileges. All right, so we are now running in the background. We are running the registry on port 5000. Okay. So we should be able to run. Let's see, netstat. Let's pipe 1000. Oh. Let's see. Just trying to verify that port is open. Let's go over here. We'll say verify Docker container is listening. Check connections for Docker container. We'll say, okay, so he's using that stat tech NA. So we'll do tac NA grep to one. There we go. So we can see that our local host is listening on 5000. Let's go back up to our command. So we verified that our local host that is running Docker, that is running our registry container. Let's go back to our run command. All right, and what we're saying is, hey, go ahead and listen on this host at 5000 and go forward to the container at 5000. So all we're doing is receiving connections on port 5000 from the host and forwarding those on to port 5000 to the container. All right, and we've verified that the host is listening. And to verify that even a step further, what we can do is let's go into that container and we should be able to run the same command if the tools are there. And a lot of these containers they'll be stripped down versions of the kernel, so they won't have all the tools installed. But let's just try it. I believe, let's say sudo, forget the command to get a shell on the container. So we'll say sudo doc help. All right, so run a command in a new container. No, I think it's something along the lines. Run a command. We want interactive. We want some interactive mode. Okay. Management. None of that is interactive. It might be run. Let's go to the trusted Googles. So we can say interactive shell Docker container. How to use Docker run commands. So we're going to call Docker container run, tac D, and then the image. Sweet. Hold on, run a container interactively. There, that's what we want. Tac LD. So tac D is in the background. That's how we currently ran it. So now what we want to do is we're going to run Docker container run tac interactive. We're going to call in the image, and then we're going to say, hey, I want you to run bin.bash with inside that container. So let's just take this as our template. we'll go back. We're going to paste that. Let's add some sudo. And I don't know the image ID, so we'll just take this. We'll back it out. I'll just put some garbage in there so we can get it to blow up, and then we'll copy and paste the image. So hit enter at the, there we go. So it wants container ID. That looks, let's so you guys can see it better. All right, there it is. So there's the container ID. All right, I'm going to zoom back in. Let's hit up arrow. So that actually might be why I couldn't run the, because I was using the image ID versus the container ID. So that's my bad. All right, so there's echo A and B. So that's one way of doing it. But let's go back and let's fix ourselves. So let's go back to bin bash. I was using the image ID versus the container. So the best way to understand the difference is an image is like a class in object-oriented programming, and a container is an instantiation of an image. That's one way of looking at it. So let's paste our container. Amazing. Unable to find image. Docker container against a container ID. Why? Full access denied. Repository does not exist or may require some sort of ninja. Alright, what's happening here? Requested access to the resources denied. Docker login denied. Error response. Okay. Well, for the sake of all of our sanity, let's just run it using this method. So we'll say netstat tag, what was it, an pipe grep 5000, and there we go. We can see that the container itself is listening to 5000. So our host is opened up 5000, as well as the container is in a listening state on port 5000. So if we pull this back, where is it? So if we go back to where we originally launched the current container that's running, let's dissect that command, and it is right here. Alright, so Docker run tag D in the background, and then here's the port mappings, 5000 to 5000. Restart always, name, registry, registry 2. I think that's tagging. Okay. So that's cool. So now that we're running, let's go back to our docs here. So what we want to do now is we can say docker pull Ubuntu. Okay. So check this out. What else we can say? So we do docker pull Ubuntu. Then we say sudo docker images. Now you see we've got Ubuntu. Alright, so following the tutorial here, we can say now docker image tag that Ubuntu with localhost :5000 my first image. Okay, so sudo, and we'll just change this to say Ben's image. Alright, go back. So now that let's list our images. Alright, so now that we have tagged at port 5000, excuse me, that image, now what we're going to do is we're going to push it to our local registry. Okay, so let's let me get situated. So we're going to say sudo docker push, and what was it? Ben's image. I guess I should have. Here, let's hit up arrow because I forget what I just named it. What did I name it? Ben's image. Yeah. So now we're going to push localhost Ben's image. And we got permission denied. Sudo. All right. So we are pushing that image that's sitting on in Docker into the to the registry container that's running on this host. Okay. So let's take a look at this. If I say sudo Docker images, we can still see that it's sitting on this host. And if we do sudo Docker images, there's probably like a remove. What if I delete this from this host? And then what we'll do is verify that it's still inside the container. And remove is not the correct images options. So let's do sudo Docker images tag h. Sudo Docker images. I want to do a remove, so sudo Docker tag help tag h. Remove one or more containers. Remove. Okay, so RMI. So commands RMI. So if we go back up, there it is. So we just do Docker RMI, which is remove image. All right, so we do remove image tagged. So we say sudo Docker images. We can see that that is no longer there. But what we want to say, okay, we want to be able to see that Ubuntu Ben's image. We want to see that if we want to verify if it's inside of the local hosted Docker registry inside the running container. So we'll go back up to our trusted command where we can execute inside of the container. Right here, remember where we executed netstat? Well, here, what we're going to do is run Docker images. Okay, so Docker's not found. Great. So it seems like that Docker container is not actually running Docker. It's actually just hosting like a web server of some sorts. I don't know the inner workings of that container. Yeah, it appears that. Okay, so it appears Docker's not actually inside of the Docker registry container, which kind of makes sense. So now I think if we go back to the tutorial here, we can actually pull yeah. Okay, so the documentation here is showing. So now we're going to demonstrate using Docker pull, but instead of pointing to by default Docker hub, we're going to point to that local registry that's running inside of that container. We're going to pull down Ben's image. And we should see it pop back up into our local images here. So, really quick, let's verify. So, as we can see, we know Ben's image. We're going to do Ben's image. And we're going to say sudo Ben's image, so we see downloaded, and we should be able to do image list again, and we can see that we just pulled down Ben's image from that registry. Okay, so that was awesome. So we know that the registry container is working, and again, or not again, but this is all local host. So what we can do is take it a step further and say, let's see here. I think the way that we, let's see if we can push. So we'll say config. Let's see if we can push see Docker's listening. Let's see if we can push an image from our other machine. So let's go back out to AWS and let's grab. So what we're going to do, let's go back to our diagram. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump on this generic Ubuntu. We're going to install Docker, and then we're going to see if I can pull across the network from that registry that's running on their Docker host over here. So just to prove that it's outside of localhost. All right, what am I going to do? Grab the connection string here. All right, let's open up a new. So let's connect. Up arrow. Change the path. Like a type. All right, now let's do here, rename this guy. Let's rename it to generic Ubuntu client. All right, so let's look at we've got the Docker registry box, which let's validate we've got connectivity. We should be within these private IPs. Say ping. All right, so the generic host can talk to the Docker registry. So we'll say we need to update sudo apt install docker.io, sudo apt update. So I'll update this box and we'll come back. All right, we are back from our update and upgrade. So now let's see if we can go out and get Docker.io. There it is. So we are installing Docker on this machine now. And what we're going to test is if we can pull down Ben's image from that remote, quote unquote, local registry that's sitting over next to us. So let's get this up and running. Let's say which Docker. Okay, great. Docker is installed. So we're there. And let's go ahead and go back to our Docker registry installation steps. Where is it? That's not it. Okay. All right, so we're going to say Docker pull localhost, but instead of localhost, we're going to try to specify that remote machine. So on this machine that we just installed Docker, we should say sudo.docker images. We don't have anything there. So now we're going to say, change this to Ben's image. Let's go back and copy this IP address. back. And let's see if this thing is accessible over the network. So got permission denied. That looks good. Outside of, oops, if I could type. Okay, error response daemon HTTPS. Server gave a response the. Okay. So does it want go v2? Nope. So it doesn't appear that it's listening. Unless, no, because I could ping it, so there's no security groups there. I'm pretty sure it's a, Okay, so let's go see if we start this thing back up on Etho0, if it'll feel like that. Let's go back up to our start. Let's find it. You know what? First, let's do sudo. So we are on our Docker registry machine. Sudo docker containers. Container. Okay. So what do we want to do? We want to stop a container. Sudo container stop, and it's probably going to want so stop options, Docker stop options container. Okay, so that's what we want. We're going to say, let's get our image or container. We want to stop the container before we restart it. So sudo docker container. What are we doing? ls. Let's grab this ID again. All right, and then we should say stop that guy. So then if we list containers again, we can see that that container has been brought down. All right, so now let's go back to our doc and grab this starting up again. Wait a minute. There was no reference to localhost. Interesting. Let's see here. Deploy a registry server. Tag localhost. Boom, boom, boom. So stop. Okay, could have just called the friendly name there. Good to know. We don't want to remove it. Here, start a registry automatically. Customize the published port. See how they changed it to 5001. No one cares about that. We want to be able to access this thing. Okay, so it wants some certs and all of that happiness. By default, secrets are mounted at blah, 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 blah. So, probably wants to configure secrets. Create search directory, copy the CRT and key files from the CA into the certs. I just want to running the registry only accessible on localhost has limited usefulness. Duh. In order to make your registry accessible to external hosts, you must first secure it using TLS. This example is extended in the run registry as a service below. What if I don't want to configure search right now? I just want to demonstrate accessing over the network. Okay. Allow non-distributed distributed artifacts? No. Ports environment. Deploy registry using a compose file. If your registration invocation is advanced, it may be easier. Blah, 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 blah. Excuse me. So I guess we can't access it via server response. So it appended HTTPS. What if we forced it? Invalid reference. Okay. Well, we will go ahead and cut that out there. So hopefully you're able to see the value of and the reason why you would want one of the local Docker registries built out and managed in your environment. You can go out to the docs and you can follow the more detailed steps, configure keys, etc., in order to make that accessible over the internet. So that's my bad of biting off that we were going to configure it over the network without any of the infrastructure in place. So alright, so what I'm going to do is start the registry again. Keep forgetting sudo. Oops. That's the new type of sudo there. I don't know what that was. Alright, so what do we got? Container name registry is already in use by blah. You have to remove or rename that container. Okay. So we'll remove it. Sudo docker container remove, and if I can just throw this huge hash in there, let's see if that did the trick. I think that did the trick. Okay, so now let's go back. Let's see if we can force this thing to go over. Image. Use the default tag to the latest error response from daemon. Let's force it to do invalid reference. V2 invalid reference. Maybe we can do not check TLS. So let's do Docker. Let's see if we can do Docker pull ignore certs. There we go. Test an insecure registry. If daemon.json file does not exist created, assuming there is no other settings in the file, it should have the following: insecure registries. Boom. Okay, where does this need to be at? Etsy docker.daemon.js. JSON. Alright, that's what I'm talking about. So, this procedure configures the Docker entirely disregards security for your registry. Okay, so this needs to be on Etsy Docker. So we'll go here. We'll say cd Etsy Docker. Oops. Okay. There's a keys.json. Let's go. We need to create daemon.json. So we'll say touch daemon. Did I spell that right? DAEMON. Okay. Sudo. Perfect. Okay. So now we've got ls. We can see that we've got, we'll say nano daemon. We'll copy that in there. Control X. Save. Error. Writing permission denied. Great. Hit no. Say sudo. Paste. Control X. Save. Yes. Great. Alright, so now we are on our generic. We're going to test the insecure registry, okay? If you wanted to set up certs and all that, there's a bit more legwork you need to do for production grade hosting. But for the sake of this demonstration, we've now updated the daemon. We should be able to pull down Ben's image. Docker pull blah 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 Ben's image. Well, that's why you need to edit. I didn't put down the right. We got to put in the server. That's fine. So let's go back and edit that guy. Okay, let's edit my registry domain doesn't exist. Let's go ahead and edit the one that we're trying to pull from. And hopefully IP is good. Okay, let's do cat. And that is good. Let's see if we can get to it. Using default latest error response to daemon get HTTPS. Probably need to start and stop Docker, right? So let's do the address. So restart Docker for changes to take effect. So system ctl Docker restart. No. Service Docker restart. Let's just do a stop and start. How about that? Or you know what? Probably want sudo. Sudo service Docker restart. Okay. Now let's see if we can pull down our. So just to make sure, we'll back out to the home, and let's do sudo Docker images. You see we have none. Let's see if we can successfully pull down this image now from our insecure local registry. And no. Error response from daemon manifest for blah. Ben's image latest not found. Let's go back to the docs. What's it saying here? myregistry.com. So does it want? First, with an secure registries enabled, Docker goes through the following steps. First, try using HTTPS. If HTTPS is not available, fall back. Restart Docker for changes to take effect. Repeat these steps on every engine host that wants to access your registry. Okay. So if daemon.file does not exist, created assuming that there is no other. Alright. So I'm thinking it needs to be in etc docker daemon. Let's go cd etc docker ls cat 172. I'm thinking it just doesn't like. Let's go over and get some DNS routing. Host name. You should have internal. Okay, so Amazon's hooking us up here. Perfect. So let's try to take that. Okay, so I can hit via host name. So let's do sudo nano daemon. Let's edit this to hit the host name. You know what? Let's grab this. Oh. Save it. Let's restart the daemon. See if that helped. Let's point it to the domain. Image with a version number 1 rather than latest, because it appears that Docker is defaulting to the latest tag. So we've just pushed our newly tagged image to the local registry, and now we're going to go ahead and try to pull down that specific image using the tag. Okay, let's see. I'm going to say pull Ben's image 1. Let's take off this HTTP. All right, so there we have it. That latest tag was killing us because Docker appears to default to latest. So if we go back to our generic here, you see, should say grab me Ben's image 1, enter, and here we are pulling across the wire that image there. So that was a bit of a roundabout way, and that was a bit of a gotcha. So definitely want to push those images you're pulling down to your local Docker registry with a version number. And so then when you pull those, you can then specify that version number and get around that gotcha with Docker defaulting to the latest tag. So there you have it. That is how you can quickly build out and test a local Docker registry. Again, you definitely don't want to ship this insecure Docker registry in production. Definitely susceptible to man-in-the-middle attacks unless you're in some type of air-gapped environment that you're comfortable and maybe you have some monitoring in place, or a really locked down environment that you're not too concerned about those man-in-the-middle attacks. Okay, so hope you guys learned something. I know I did. And as always, provide a comment down below, or drop me a line and let me know if there's anything that you guys want me to touch on. So until next time, peace.